Okay, so the problem of evil, right? The fundamental thoughts are clear now. Right, largely when you deal with philosophy of religion, if you think common sensically as well, you can create good answers. Good answers means the answers that have some amount of flow. Just like atheist is accepting a personal God, omniscient, omnipotent, benevolent God. At the same time, somebody is raising the query. Why this much of troubles are there in the world? You will be forced to compromise with at least one of the infinite attributes of God. Theodicy is the attempt, right? Apparently, the theist believes that he is giving a logical solution to a logical question. This is a logical question. Why evil is there? Theist definitely believes, I won't say that he is correct, theist definitely believes that he is giving some logical answers for it based on, they are known as theodicies. The term was used by Leibniz. So broadly, we can say there are instrumentalist view and the free willist view. Here broadly. So it's like instrumentalist view means evil, only in a partial sense it should be treated as something which is bad. It is something which leads to good. It is something which helps us understand the value of goodness, right? Value of benevolence of human being. It is something which elevates us spiritually, right? Simply, maybe in our daily lives, we feel some. If we introspect, many a times the small troubles in life will help us move out of the some inertia or comfort zone. We may use our best potential. Actually, that is the root of the thought. Like, suppose you are having theistic thought. Suppose you are a person is a theist. They try to interlink everything with that. That is theodicy. God has permitted evil for higher good. Leibniz has given that. There, if you see the notes as well, you would have created three, 4 points. It's like during the time of calamities or something, people unite together, spiritual upliftment. Evil is means it's like only in one aspect, it seems like something which is bad. In fact, who the good is hidden in it. We can have daily life examples as well for that, or normal life examples as well. Free willist view means it's like, yeah, evil is bad, but it's a natural outcome of misuse of free will. That's all. The issue with that is even the natural evils, they do treat it as a product of an outcome of misuse of free will by the human beings. We have got lot of counters why the proportion of evil is that much big. Even in free willist argument, we can say that why the innocents are suffering. But a strong theist will never accept anything against God. He will never treat problem of evil as a kind of negation of God. Whatever answer he is giving, whatever counters you are giving against it, a theist will have further, defense against it. That is theodicy. It's not like the theist, a strong theist will stop at a particular point and say that, okay, have accepted your point. Now I will negate God, or now I will compromise with the attributes of God. Only in the learning phase, right? Suppose a person is being introduced to theism, we will have many queries. That individual will have many queries. But once firm faith has been established, they will try to give counter arguments. But maybe The other solution would be perhaps this is the reason why in systems like Advaita, we do have two levels. You need to be logically convinced, and at the same time, you need to have faith. Unique position. And we can see many number of theists, we'll see that they will keep faith and reason on both sides. Right? Perhaps a theist who is defending from a scientist who happens to be a theist. Right? On one perspective, will be working from the perspective of reason. Other perspective means he will be comfortable. He is comfortable with arguing from the perspective of faith. But in problem of evil, the case is that when the problem of evil is raised as a logical problem, even though it's just a generalization that you are making, theist is in fact arguing on the basis of faith. Rooted on that faith, presumptions, he is extending kind of logical solutions to logical problems that are being raised. Yeah, yeah, no, means whether it may be instrumentalist view, free willist view, he believes that I am giving logical arguments. But it is rooted in faith only. See, I'm not blaming that. This is a process that is going on. That is the reason why whatever problem they are having solution, extending solution. It's like if you are asking like God has created human being out of his own image, then why should they misuse the free will? Why should they act against the good? That's a genuine query. Or even when you being asked like God has given human being free will, he knows everything. Why he is not preventing human beings from involving in these kind of deeds? That can be the source of the evil. But theists will logically say that no problem. Means they believe logically. They say like God wanted human beings not to be like robots. If they are created as so good, राइट दैट्स इश्यू ना अगर यार दुनिया में अगर हर कोई अच्छा है सब अच्छा है तो कुछ मजा नहीं आएगा इवन इन Descartes we saw like one sentence in Descartes we saw it's like free will he says that God has given human beings infinite will and finite intellect why there I told you never go into that in paper one, no need to dig deep into the problems in philosophy of religion. There he was dealing with epistemological problems in method of doubt. We'll have a natural query why perceptual errors are happening. उसने खत्म कर दिया. At one point, he was telling like you are given infinite will and finite intellect. That's it. That's best for you. No scope to counter that. So no scope means on paper, on UPSC paper, no scope to counter that. क्योंकि you are given only that much of space से पहले और बहुत कुछ लिखना है see in between I am going into the practical zone as well or I would say whatever I am discussing they are rooted in practicality only ठीक है ना that's the reason why I can say कि यार we can debate on that we can discuss on that but we need not waste the time first of all it's not that deep right in paper one if you are getting a question on Descartes yeah I think therefore I am standard criticism or mind body dualism animal spirit category mistake space bhi nahi time bhi nahi what you are going to write on that so there he says like God has given that's a typical there as well I would have told you can rewind and see it's like there he has given a typical theist kind of argument in his epistemology that's it why we are having perceptual error means God has created human like this why what is the proof that the external world exists God won't deceive us dependent on the veracity of God न्यू टर्म है वेरासिटी मुझे भी अच्छा लगा था फर्स्ट टाइम डेफिनेटली डिक्शनरी तो देखा होगा पढ़ने के टाइम में तो वेरासिटी God will show you only the right thing. So come back here. Right? These kind of arguments. Now we don't need God, human beings to be like robots. You have been given free will, you commit mistakes, you evolve out of it. Good from a practical perspective, when we see the life, see if these thoughts are there, when we come across trouble means strong theist, you may believe that this is going to be, a chance for spiritual growth. Their performance may get enhanced. We will say like, okay, let's keep it on the side of faith. We will argue from the perspective of reason. Here it is intermixed. Here it is intermixed. Getting now, in fact, the theist who is arguing from the perspective of faith, he believes that God shouldn't. Alvin Plantinga says like we shouldn't be like robots. But again, an atheist can argue, na, you need not be like robots. But is the God that much weak to create you in such a way that you will spiritually evolve and at the same time you are not acting like robots? Yeah, we don't need world war. We don't need weapons of mass destruction. We don't need pandemics. Okay, let the evil prevail or some as an instrument or something. Let it result in spiritual growth. That's it. What I'm trying to say is this debate, I would say, is a kind of antinomy only. Na? नहीं लिख सकते हैं, but the case is that both people believe that they are arguing strong, but it's like they are in the contrary position. That is the root of antinomy. You are arguing from both sides. Realism, idealism discussion, existence of oneself, they were metaphysical discussion. Here we are bringing in theology. As a solution, we can't even compromise with any of the attribute of God. That is like denying God. So can law of karma, suppose we are bringing in law of karma in the dharmic traditions, Indian traditions, right? Based on the transmigration or something, you are the performer, you are the reaper of the fruits. Can it be a better solution? Law of karma, dekho. What was the problem with the free willist argument? Innocents are suffering. Innocent people are suffering. Ne? It's like some people are committing mistakes. Some people are committing sins. Many innocents are suffering because of that. If you want a logical answer for that, we can say that, okay, this person would have committed some mistake in the past life. Maybe better solution. Compared to that, suppose you are planning to give. But many a times the problem of evil is not a big challenge to many of the philosophical systems in India. If you see Buddhism, see definitely there is no creator God. But why they are rejecting creator God means one among the reasons from later Buddhist thinkers say like, mm, problem of evil may arise. That's why we are not accepting personal God. It's a challenge actually. Just like in the first question, first topic, no attribute is to God. We have many number of criticism. Can God create a stone that he cannot lift? Can God sin? Likewise, bigger question is the problem of evil. When you accept the concept of absolute in that type as a personal God, it is a kind of limitation. These queries are a kind of logical limitation. They are never blasphemy. See, when somebody is naturally asking that if you are having omniscient, omnipotent, benevolent God, why should evil exist? You logically say that God exists. Logically, somebody is asking that why, how should they, how should they be together? Logically, if you are unable to answer means for any question, it's like antinomy only. There will be counter question. So it's like some fallacy is there in our initial premise. I would say our presumption will be that the absolute cannot be the God of religion. Absolute should be something beyond, no? as a concept. So evil is a challenge for anyone. But the problem associated with law of karma based justification, suppose somebody is extending, it will be the question like, suppose say somebody is accepting soul. Soul has performed the deed. Individual souls are doing something. Even in Jainism, you see. The premise will be how to establish the existence of soul as a transcendental entity. And on the other side, soul, chalo, theek hai, you accepted it. You see in Jainism, soul is understood as the person of four infinites: infinite knowledge, faith, power, bliss. How can such a divine entity fall in bondage due to the finite matter? That is believed to be in the opposite. It will open other set of questions. Maybe they can create a question. It's like, can law of karma be established beyond verification? Simple question. You will say, what is it? These people are trying to establish through this thing. You can criticize like this. See, people will think like, from which book should I study that? There is no book. Whatever you have studied, you need to deliver, right? You understand the demand of the paper. Law of karma, definitely it will be a better answer. But the case is that in Indian philosophical systems, you see, Sarvaga, there is no problem of evil for them. In fact, Jainism and Buddhism, they don't suffer from the problem of a creator God. See, when there is creator God only, this problem is going to arise. But even though there is a kind of problem of evil you need to raise in those systems, that will be directed against in Jainism, that would be directed against the soul. Because divine soul, how can it commit this kind of bad deeds? Problem of evil as such, if you are in fact going through the schools of Vedanta, see, they are accepting God as a matter of faith only. See, not proof, faith. And even in Advaita and all, you can have some kind of answers which the whole the mithya mayavad. I won't say that evades the problem. In empirical level, okay, whatever arguments you have given from the perspective of these two, तो उसके साथ compatible है. You are believing, you are trying to conceive the transcendental entity from this level. That is the God of religion. ठीक है, you have accepted it. Anything means it's a matter of faith. Okay, so evil as a problem is a challenge only before an individual who is accepting omniscient, omnipotent, benevolent God as the creator God, as the governor of morality, as the one who has created human beings. For him, mostly the problem of theodicy is supposed to give that. Clear, no? Is there any solution actually? Perhaps the only, in fact, from the perspective of pure logic or pure reason, if somebody is arguing, which argument carries more weight? Maybe the critics' argument will be carrying more weight if both of them claim that I am arguing from the perspective of reason. It's not time yet, but generally different types of conclusions can be given. Attempt ki, we can say it's a bitter pill, or maybe it's like one is arguing from the perspective of faith, another is the arguing from the perspective of reason. That's the reason why it's a kind of antinomy. Antinomic, okay, I mean it's like two people arguing from both sides, they are strongly sticking on to their position. Nobody has used that term, nor you can, no. But, matlab, on the basis of that, you cannot write everything. It is a kind of antinomianism. Okay, nothing big, right? But many number of questions can be asked from it through a slight twist. I am planning to discuss, as I told you, not as a class, just answer discussion if you are doing after completing this one, two session, एक दो session लेने से, we will get a very good idea of how to use the content. In between, I was telling in the beginning classes and all. But when you see a new question, matlab, simply they will change. They will simply ask a question like, can a free willist give account for natural evil? But it's not like you are going to write the whole notes there only. Yeah? Matlab, you will feel like you are writing the same thing. But simply when there is a twist on the question, answering according to that twist. I won't call it even it as a kind of application. Application means it's not a rocket science. It's common sense. Application of your common sense. That's all. So small twists in a question, just like in topics like religion and morality. You will be writing the same points only. But same points, how you are writing, it's dependent on the question. That's all. When you are writing dependent on the question, some 20% your own, style will come in that. That style, as far as I feel, will be the differentiating factor. What is that style? Style is not language. Style is not your knowledge. Style is your clear way of thinking, addressing something. Skill style banana nahi hai. Just leave it to that question. Okay, that I will show you. Right. Any question can be written. Even in the initial class, I was showing same question can be written in two, three styles rooted in the same context. Reader should feel you have understood it. Reader shouldn't feel you have mugged up a number of points and written it. So, see, they don't have any, grudge towards people who have mugged up question here. But I keep other one feels better. That's all. That's the final point. Na? Yeah, it seems good. But it seems addressed. When we create theories regarding UPSC checking, ये होता है कि यार they have studied from the same material, they are writing the same thing. इतना time होता है क्या किसी के पास वो किसी से भी पढ़े? Nothing else. Simply yeah, feel good, addressed. यही है ना final point यही होता है. How to reach there means address the question. Earlier there used to be a rumor like UPSC will see while setting the prelims question. He's seeing the prominent materials in the market and after that they will create question कि जो उसमें नहीं है. People will believe. यार और कोई काम नहीं है कि जो एस्पिरेंट है वो नहीं पढ़ रहा है इतना मटेरियल, बाकी क्यों पढ़ेगा यार? देखो, मान लो कि मैं तो नहीं पढ़ूंगा, दे विल बी मच सीनियर देन मी, उसको क्या इंटरेस्ट है इसमें, राइट? अगर इतना इफ somebody कैन स्टडी दिस मच ऑफ मटेरियल वो खुद लिख लेगा एग्जाम बस, राइट? एज एन एस्पिरेंट आर यू एबल टू स्टडी कि यू हैव लॉट ऑफ इंसेंटिव, आई नीड टू क्लियर द एग्जाम, आई हैव क्विट द जॉब, इतना मटेरियल पढ़ा, हम नहीं पढ़ पा रहे हैं, व्हाट शुड वी डू? अच्छा, that's true questions, bro. Earlier, this year means you can challenge after the prelims exam, na, you can challenge it. With सच बताने से, when we read the material, ना, we will get demoralized initially. क्योंकि ये होता है कि if something is not concise, we will, and we will, because of fear of missing out, we read something, we get demoralized. Finally, शायद उससे कुछ, generally it won't come, lot of things. Daily basis पे what you are doing, something will come from it. Finally, you feel like I read each and everything. So you see, from the checker perspective, I'm just showing the practicality. Practicality means you need to address, you need the point. That's the root, right? Bracketing everything. यही है ना? Bracketing means वो सब नहीं सोचने का. That is the root. Everything begins from there. Okay. So this much is okay. I will show you, how the questions will come. Another important topic is theory of liberation, problem of immortality of soul and theories of liberation. You already know it. That is bondage. Why soul is accepted? Why immortal soul is accepted? Maybe in the beginning we told, ground of consciousness. Okay. For explaining morality, knower, doer, enjoyer. Fine. Then what? For explaining rebirth is an extension of this. Law of karma means rebirth. People will ask, why should I be moral if I am not getting the? People will say your theory is not correct. Right in the beginning, second or third class, when we were introducing law of karma, the fundamental premise is that good deed, good fruit, bad deed, bad fruit. Everyone presumes, majority people presume that they are good. है ना? सब तो ऐसे ही सोचते हैं ना. लेकिन पता नहीं, सब लोग सोचते हैं हम अच्छे. And we feel like, yeah, good. You see, this much of bad people are getting good fruits in their life. Our presumption is that I am a good being. मुझे तो वो नहीं मिला. ठीक है, presume that, no problem. वही लेनी. Originally पता नहीं है ना, whether you are good or a villain. You presume that good. So what we will say? When you want to convince another person about the law of karma, good deeds will be associated with good fruit. आएगा आएगा, तुम्हारा टाइम भी आएगा. कब आएगा मीन्स, एक तो एक ही, इवन दो वी से दैट एज इज जस्ट ए नंबर, और देर इज डिफरेंस बिटवीन पब्लिक टाइम एंड प्राइवेट टाइम, वो तो एक सच है ना यार. इट्स ए रियलिटी. इट्स ए बिटर ट्रूथ. तो आफ्टर सम टाइम की अभी अच्छा टाइम आके भी क्या करेंगे यार? लॉ ऑफ कर्मा, आफ्टर पर्टिकुलर एज यू फील लाइक, at that time, somebody will give motivation like it's 30s is not a bad age to start a new hobby. If people are, वो तो चलेगा नहीं यार. They are poetic language. So people will ask like, when at the age of 90 somebody is asking, I have not got a good fruit. Next life. Or you can convince that you are suffering this much because of your previous life. Okay, so convinced. For explaining law of karma, future life, fine. That's it. Okay, that's the reason, fundamental reasons. And incentive after the death, after, even though there is no transmigrating soul, in systems like Christianity, religions like Christianity as well, there is resurrection, judgment day. After death, there are no multiple lives in this world, but there is life in another world. After death, after the end of the universe, in the judgment day, you will be given fruits according to your own actions. If you have done well, you will be in the heaven. If not, in the hell. बस हो गया. स्वर्ग नरक. Afterlife, incentives, right? After the death, you will get the heaven. Perhaps Madhavacharya, Sayujya, incentive, it's a kind of incentive, just like the traveler, two travelers who are climbing up the mountain. Definitely, incentives are needed. In any action, if you have very good incentive, constructive incentive अच्छा तो लगेगा, which is not harming anyone, right? You are performing good deeds so that you will be in direct relation with God. Sayujya, always in the presence of God. You are not harming anyone, you are not hurting anyone. Let it remain. Immanuel Kant is accepting immortality as a postulate of morality, no? Postulate of morality, but accepting immortality. Three postulates when it comes to morality. One is God, another is, you remember now, free will. Free will. 2 years back in paper one, there was a question regarding which uh, rationalist position on substance is closer to giving free will to human beings. कल दिया है उसका की, तो मुझे लग रहा था कि कंक्लूजन में कांत क्यों नहीं लिखे. We are studying for paper two, conclusion, not in the beginning. देखना, and you just see, definitely it will help you out during the time of mains. This kind of conclusions, and also you just come back. It's a kind of postulate, right? Suppose you are getting a question on omniscience versus free will. Remember, na first class we discussed in PO, philosophy of religion. Omniscience, God knows everything. How can human beings have free will? Conclusion, Kantian position. Good, na? This is how we learn to write conclusion. Now, don't think like if everybody is going to write the same conclusion, how UPSC will evaluate. Everybody नहीं लिखेगा यार. First analyze whether you yourself are writing. जो आप पढ़ रहे हो पूरा लिख रहे हैं क्या पेपर में, वो बोलो पहले. हाँ, वो जब लिखोगे वो ठीक हो जाएगा. अरे वो नहीं लिख पाते हैं, and it's basically against time. You are practically you are writing against time. First question, though, everybody is studying the same NCRT, seeing the same newspaper. The competition, मतलब how to bring difference. To bringing difference means जो syllabus में नहीं है वो लिखोगे. Can write, right? It's a good conclusion, making use of Kant in such questions. Okay, immortality. Yes, सही है. Good. Kant, ऐसे बोलो. Kant has great utility for conclusions. And when we study Gandhian philosophy, maybe seen socio-political, I felt like it has utility in socio-political philosophy, religion and morality, ethics, different topics, essay, interview. Utility है. We go by utility only. Who is your favorite thinker? Favorite topic? Who has got maximum utility in exam? Kant is a philosopher who has got maximum utility. Bas. The maximum utility. Is there any epistemological ground for accepting immortal soul? Somewhere have you seen it? Here we have seen moral ground, metaphysical ground. Metaphysical ground means it's like, when we think about eternality, something is eternal. Eternal means indivisible. That's not a part, it's a whole. Indivisible thing, eternality. That's why soul is immortal. Soul is indivisible. If soul has to be eternal, indivisible. Yeah, epistemological. Okay. Transcendental unity. Somewhere else. Somewhere else it can turn out to be a necessity. Somewhere. Not a big deal. Here, mostly we need questions on bondage and liberation only. Where? Epistemology, permanent soul. Here is the other. Good. Plato. Ideas. Plato argues like, in recollection theory, the soul knows the ideas, not after taking birth. Without recollection, knowledge is not possible. His rationalism is integrated to recollection theory. No way, right? Plato is resorting to many number of metaphors because he himself knows universe and particulars cannot be related. That's the reason why analogy of the cave, divided light, participation theory, copy theory, likewise recollection theory from epistemological perspective. He argues like that. Only when something is common to that life and this life, knowledge is possible. And even he says like universals are perfect. The knowledge of universals can exist only on something which is perfect. Body is not perfect. Something else, soul is perfect. Right? For ground of universals, for recollection theory, or even Kant is also accepting soul, self as a transcendental unity of different feelings. That's fine. And in Indian philosophical systems generally, let's say Sankhya, Purusha, some arguments, same kind of argument they are giving. Somebody should be beyond this changeable prakriti, permanent should be there. People have reasons for immortality. Mostly, it's grounded in morality and incentives in life. Okay, okay. Just think. 40 minutes of gauge. Just think. Okay. Criticism of Buddhism, na? You remember in paper one. Uh, See, in questions on bondage and liberation, what you are going to get is either they are going to ask you from specific topics. In 2024, as far as I remember, in Jainism it was asked. Buddhism, they have been asking. Highest priority, it used to be, except for last year, it was the comparison of schools of Vedanta. Repeatedly they were asking this. Right in paper one, right, I had told you, I had shared a document in which you are having comparison between different schools, metaphysics as well as the theories of bondage and liberation. Some fundamental question. Some fundamental question means which marga, whether after liberation what, whether you need grace of God, positive liberation, negative liberation, Jivan Mukti versus Videha Mukti. This is what an examiner would love to see. If you are clear with that, then it's done. Right? Further, there is no need for further complication. If you give that, then it's done. Right? These are the fundamental questions. So, bondage, simply, it's like in Indian philosophical systems. Let's say Charvaka. There is no theory of bondage and liberation as such. And you don't have much scope to make use of it. No scope in bondage and liberation. Jainism, we need to study what we did there. I think I don't need to explain it again. No need. We have done it there. Buddhism, they are going to ask you, how does Buddhism explain rebirth or theory of bondage and liberation in the absence of a permanent self? Should I explain it? We have there we have seen like through Anatma, the Praditya Samutpada, they say like it is possible only. You should recollect those arguments. It is possible only in a changeable soul. They try to extend something. As you are writing वो criticism तो है, that's it. ये words का मतलब है कि it's a violation of law of karma. In paper one criticism you see Jainas are raising this criticism. Buddhism में क्या था? Somebody is doing the action, somebody else is reaping the fruits, right? So we need the clarity there. Fundamentally, Buddhism is trying to explain even in the absence of immortal soul. We need to be clear with those arguments. These two things, Jaina theory of bondage and liberation, Buddhist theory of bondage and liberation, they are overlapping with paper one. Getting done. 100% overlapping. You can get questions in both. The structure is same. A bit improvisation I will suggest in paper two. That's all. A bit scope for interlinkage, but largely it's one and the same. Sankhya, they can ask you, na? Right, as far as I remember, in our first unit test, I had asked that question. मुझे तो इतना याद है, आपको तो ज्यादा होना चाहिए. पूछा था कि नहीं? सांख्या थियरी ऑफ बॉन्डेज एंड लिबरेशन, नो? अरे एक तो बोलो. दोनों. Yes or no? Ah, good. So it's like there was a kind of structure and keywords we can show. No? It's like bondage, apparent bondage, purusha, darshanartham, kaivalyartham, types of suffering. See, types of suffering means I won't say that it carries conceptual weight, but it carries the weight of a keyword. Checker's job will be your structure is there. He's seeing keywords, he's seeing number of points, going to give you marks. That's it. Shankaracharya's criticism after explaining that. Many criticisms. Comparison with Jivan, the Sanghi accepts Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti both. The Sanghi accept both Jivan Mukti as well as Videha Mukti. Do you remember that? Jivan Mukti, Videha Mukti? नो बोलने से भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। सुना तो है ना, समथिंग वाज देयर, सम डिस्टिंक्शन वाज देयर इन सम टॉपिक that you can recollect with a single read. If Vedanta is clear, then these topics are automatically clear. Sankhya accepts, right? Whether Sankhya does explain liberation positively or negatively, state of liberation. What after liberation? Definitely freedom from suffering is there. Was there any kind of positive bliss? No, negative. Yeah. They believe bliss is a product of sattvika guna. That is enough actually. Right, on one argument, Ishwara Krishna, Sankhya philosopher is intermixing the gunas. But in another place, he is saying that I won't intermix the gunas. I won't, ascribe the gunas of Prakriti onto Purusha. मैंने बोला था ना शुरुआत में, वन ऑफ माय स्टूडेंट्स इन इनिशियल इयर्स, वो जस्ट पास आउट था उस समय। तो सही में पूछा कि वो अपना डस ही डो इज ही नॉट रीडिंग हिज ओन बुक, क्योंकि एक पेज में तो इन वन पेज इज राइटिंग दैट the the gunas cannot be attributed on प्रकृति। यार वो इट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट डाउट, क्योंकि एक पेज अगर पीछे अगर वो खोल के देख लेता, then there won't be much issue. See, still I am remembering that doubt, no? So that's the problem, you see, negative. Remember the arguments why he is defining it negatively. Guna, sattvika guna, bliss is not a product of sattvika guna. Sorry, he treats bliss is a product of sattvika guna. It's about rising beyond that. One sentence is enough. See, what I am trying to show is, we need, if you are clear with paper one, yeah, correct. If you are clear with paper one, paper two में बहुत कुछ, they have covered. ठीक है ना, लग नहीं रहा ना मैं भाग रहा हूँ, वो तो मैं, see, you are getting nothing. Jainism, that you are supposed to study, Pudgala, attracting, really attracting. Even as an addition to this question, we had a comparative question between Jaina and the Sankhya theory of bondage and liberation. Remember that in one of first test we had that question. क्यों बनाया वो चीज? Paper one they may be asked. Paper two we need that kind of thinking process. Real bondage, apparent bondage. ठीक है ना? Course means तो integrated है ना? If I am saying Jaina theory of bondage, Sankhya, apart from the crux, it's failure for both, na? That's the reason why. So remember, na, if you are unable to remember, we are supposed to study that actually. Buddhism means explaining theory of bondage and liberation without accepting a permanent soul. We have that, one pages as well for Buddhist explanation for rebirth. Sankhya, apparent bondage, as I told you now. Criticism, we don't need the aid of God. Fine, right? This is what they are going to ask in paper two as well. Either directly or certain questions I will tell you. Nyaya, they seldom used to ask, but still answer is the same only. The one we discussed yesterday. Mimamsa. They are not studying that actually. Not much of utility. Mimamsa utility, paper two very less. Paper one, Swatapramanavad, Parthapramanavad, Arthapati. Schools of Vedanta, repeatedly they used to ask. We need to have the fundamental knowledge of that metaphysics. That table I had given, not material class, apart from that, before the test वो एक table था ना, उसमें कि we need to understand the Brahma Vichar, Jiva Vichar, Brahma Jiva Sambandh, status of Jagat, why bondage or bondage. path to liberation, whether you need grace of God or not. After liberation, what is the scenario? Whether it is going to share the complete bliss of Brahman or part of it or something different from it. How the Mahavakyas, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, how they are interpreted. They are the broader headings. No? Every school of Vedanta is going to define liberation positively only. Why? Satchidananda. Ananda. The term Ananda means bliss. Beyond the transcendental joys which are transient, empirical joys which are transient. What about Buddhism? Largely, how do they define liberation? Positive or negative? Negative. Huh. Earlier, Buddhism has got a tendency to be negative. Later, Buddhism kind of state of positive bliss. वो आप लिख सकते हो confidently. In Western philosophy or theology, may perhaps in Christian theology, the equivalent of liberation is salvation. Salvation. Freedom from something. When we study socio-political philosophy, there is the topic known as liberty. You cannot write what you study in liberation on liberty. ठीक है ना? Simple as that. No application there. No application of what we have been studying in till now, till the end of philosophy of religion in socio-political, very rare scope. Very rare scope. That's a different thing. It's like when you write about crime and punishment in topic like polity. Let's say question on capital punishment. In the conclusion, will you write law of karma there? Law of karma, look, you are thinking. Simple as that. So it's a different thing. So you remember, in Western means it's like the idea of resurrection, original sin. In Christianity means original sin. Initial first human being, they created some sin. What is that sin? Original sin. They consumed the forbidden fruit. Forbidden means what? God has told what is right, what is wrong. That's the base of any religious morality. Who is going to decide what is right or wrong? God will decide what is right or wrong. You deviated from that. You have been given with the free will. You committed a sin. Human beings by birth have that original sin. Redemption from that, freedom from that original sin. Salvation, following the path of God. God through His divine grace, Kripa, will be saying human beings. Ignorant. In Vedanta, it's like human beings are originally divine. Originally, they are divine. Life is about discovering that divinity. Even, in some of the speeches, lectures of Vivekananda, see, he says what you call as idol worship or symbol worship. It need not be treated as a sin. It can be treated as an ignorance or lower form of bhakti. मतलब उनका ग्रेडेशन है कि एथिज्म इज ऑल्सो नॉट रॉन्ग. एथिज्म ठीक है. यू आर इन हिज ओपिनियन एथिज्म मीन्स इट्स लाइक यू आर reluctant to think beyond what you perceive. But when you worship an idol, it's like you are unable to worship or connect with the formless being. तो उसके लिए एक tool बना दिया. When you rise beyond that, and even he says like when you even you close your eyes and worship something, kuch image to aega irrespective of you are worshipping an image. Rooted in Advaitic thoughts only. Okay, come back. So it's like there are different, levels of bhakti. So you see, in Christian theology, you need to understand the idea of resurrection. In this life, you are born with original sin. You follow the teachings of, Jesus Christ. Follow that life. After death, you will be in the kingdom of God. Salvation. It has got parallels with Madhavacharya's dualism. Parallels with Madhavacharya's dualism. Even when we interpret Aham Brahmasmi, Madhavacharya kind of says like some kind of miniature version. Whether you need grace of God for liberation. You will get open questions like this, whether you need grace of God for liberation. At least in the schools of Vedanta we studied, in Ramanujacharya, whether you need grace of God or not. Be clear with that. Yes. In fact, grace of God is treated as a kind of alternate route or alternate path for liberation. What will happen? Because through the grace of God, the ordinary bhakti will get elevated to the highest bhakti. Highest bhakti, bhakti means emotional connect. Before Ramanujacharya, historically, if you see, there were the Alvars and the Nayanar. You might have studied in medieval Indian history, NCRT. They are going to ask you question on that in prelims. Alvars and Nayanars, Bhakti saints. They had developed deep emotional connect. And Bhakti movement means it had some social aspects as well. Against discrimination, against caste discrimination, against untouchability. Social dimension, the spiritual dimension means integrated with Bhakti. Not all Bhakti saints were, many Bhakti saints were against the scriptures, but those who tried to integrate Bhakti with the scriptures, Ramanujacharya was one among them. Historically, he was from Tamil Nadu. So there were Alvars and Nayanars in that part. So their influence plus some prevailing social circumstances, grace of God. He emphasizes on one among the stanzas in Bhagavad Gita, one among the Prasthanatrayas. It's like even if you surrender, even if you renounce all the dharmas, dharma means what? The duty in the Varna system, you completely surrender to me, I will give you liberation. So bhakti gets interlinked with some social necessity. Anyhow, emotional connect is there earlier, not only about that emotional connect. When somebody is trained, cultured, right? Somebody's mind is cultured to be following devotion. Yes, surrender feel to aayega hi finally. It's about practice. You keep thinking always like the entire world is a kind of divine play of God. The ordinary bhakti, you surrender every action to God, right? We discussed the idea of prasada, na? Prasada. Prasada means offering. You are offering your action to God. He is returning back. Whatever He is returning back, accept it completely. See, if that attitude shapes our action, very difficult to practice. Bhakti will be positive. No? Whatever is happening, whatever negative is happening, it's God's will. That is highest bhakti. They realize that I am the soul and I am a mere organ in the instrument in the hand of God. That is the highest bhakti. So through grace of God, the ordinary bhakti gets elevated to highest bhakti. Okay, remember? And after liberation in schools of Vedanta, this is what we have to be clear. After liberation means interpret Aham Brahmasmi, Shankaracharya. Just I am reminding you need to focus on that. Identical relation, that is the metaphysics. This is the theology, soteriology, whatever it may be, right? Where that deals with the problem of suffering, bondage, and liberation. Madhava, sorry, Ramanujacharya. Apratak Siddhi Sambandha there, na? Aham Brahmasmi means you feel like I am a part of Brahman. That is the whole I am part. Madhavacharya, very difficult, but still interpret like similar. God self relation, God human relation. Maybe you can get a question in topic number one, right? Where just like we studied God world relation, critically examine the God human relation in different schools of Vedanta. Identical relation, organic relation, similar relation, thus with criticism. Fine. Path to liberation. See, every school of Vedanta is based in Bhagavad Gita as well. You don't need to read that. They say that it's based on Upanishads as well. Don't need to read. I'm not even saying you to read the text. Understand what is needed. Understand the subject, convert it into what is needed for the exam. Fix in mind what is practical, not practical. But this is for what we are here. So, path to liberation, you see, it's an integrated Jnana Marga, Karma Marga, Bhakti Marga. Remembering? Purvamimamsa, Karma Marga, rituals, right? Duty needs to be done with utmost respect, treating it with some good sanctity. Every duty. Actually, it's a good thought. Not only the rituals of Vedas, any action, right? Any action, whether it is in your personal life, whether it is in your, you know, in your professional life, any action, right? Any action will be of benefit for the other. Good action will be of benefit for the other. और उसके ऊपर है कि समथिंग इज देयर फॉर अस टू कुछ तो है ना करने के लिए फिर खाली जब बैठोगे तो लगेगा कि यार कुछ है ही नहीं करने के लिए डूइंग समथिंग दैट्स कर्मा एक्चुअली so after some time when you treat duty means duty for duty sake when you study topics like in topics like GS4 में Immanuel Kant means duty for duty sake means it's like duty is an end in itself duty is supposed to be performed that's all. Just like rituals, why should I do the ritual means, see, the scriptures are saying we should do it. That's an attitude. When we are a learner initially, right, the only thing to do is to do it. Bas. Application, right? Philosophy application means, yeah, when you are doing your duty means, yeah, rather than thinking a lot, when you have some clarity, this needs to be done means, पहले वो करना चाहिए. We need to be grateful like yeah today my health is good I am getting this opportunity this is actually giving respect to duty through that we will learn we will be more proficient in what we are doing. And then we keep thinking about the purpose of it. What is the underlying philosophy behind something, this action? पहले करना चाहिए ना. First we need to do, then keep along with that, even in an on-job training, then we think. Then we will be in a position to think, understand the underlying philosophy associated with it. This is how, the Purva Mimamsa, the Karma Mimamsa, the Karma Marga slowly get elevated to, from the perspective of later Uttar Mimamsins, I am saying, Bhakti and the Jnana. Remember, na? Ritualistic pragmatism initially. But even after initially we start doing, if you are not contemplating, simply doing means, you may feel like you are doing something mechanically. Along with that, we keep thinking, why I am doing this? What is the purpose behind this? That is actually Jnana Marga. We try to link, in the scriptures means Purva Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa, discussions regarding Brahman, self, initially unable to integrate why these things are being written here. Do the ritual initially, right? When you are into a job as well, means initially we cannot think from a broader perspective. Purva Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa, and during those times, bhakti was also prevalent in the society. They are unable to conceive what is the thing, what is the infinite. The more we learn about the absolute, the more intellectual humility we'll be having. We will realizing one's own shortcomings is not like underconfidence. It's understanding reality. It will give more confidence. It's like, I cannot change this, but I will focus on what I can change first. And what I can change means treat it as an offering to God. This is Bhakti Marga. So, in fact, any school of Vedanta, path to liberation is an integration of all these, any orthodox school. Some will focus more on Jnana Marga, many will focus more on Bhakti Marga. But when it comes to later schools, means pure karma means, it's not treated as a source of liberation. The soul will understand pure karma cannot give you liberation. It has to elevate further. Study the scriptures. You are not feeling like new, na? मुझे जानना है. Familiarity is there, na? Definitely we studied in bed. This is my practical side. यही तो मैं पूछ रहा हूँ क्योंकि my job is finally you are able to relate. No, paper one we studied schools of Vedanta, these discussions. Positive liberation, negative liberation, जीवन मुक्ति, विदेह मुक्ति. रिलेटेड तो है ना विद सिलेबस. ओके, तो ठीक है. बट यू शुड से, ठीक है ना. So you see, suppose you are getting a question like, do you need grace of God? We'll have broader answer. This is what I need to show. After explaining these basics, you just spend some time on it. Half an hour bhi de doge to enough. Half an hour, 1 hour after the class means it. So it's enough actually. That's why I was telling you more time we need to invest on formatting on paper one. Okay, so after liberation, path to liberation. So what is the role of bhakti in Advaita? Practical level, purification of chitta. End of the day, if the root cause of bondage is ignorance, only knowledge can liberate you. Only knowledge can liberate you. Bhakti means, I would say, earlier I have used this term, the Brahman or the God is a kind of approximation of that transcendental entity from this empirical level. Shiva, the more we learn about the absolute, Jnanamarga means Oyana. The more we learn about the absolute or think about the absolute means is actually your life may become more easy. Because finiteness, realizing one's own finiteness. That's the reason why you see ignorance or ahamkara. वो तो philosophy पढ़ने के बाद ही पता चलता है. That term when अहंकार when we use in our daily life. In Hindi, the term ahankar is not frequently used. Same meaning only. In Malayalam, it's a very common word, ahankari. अगर कोई वो ज्यादा show off करता है, very pride individual means that term. In Shuddh Hindi only it's used many times. So ahankari means after studying this, subject only came to know it's ignorance. It's not that a kind of show off and all. Agar somebody is not knowing the reality, its true nature, they will take pride on something. That's all. So ahankar, ego, it's like jiva from this level. When it involves in jnana marga, it understands its own limitation. It is finite. It is something else, even though it is unable to realize. So thoda, when you think about the absolute, infinite, from this level, we can think through the categories of understanding only. You know Malayalam. गाना तो सुना है पहले बोला था ना. हाँ ठीक है मोर संस्कृत हृदयम ना हृदयम का बोल रहा था ना. हाँ. Okay, you see, from this level, the soul will feel like, soul becomes a fan, huge admirer of the infinite. So, ठीक है, equate it with God, bhakti, purifier of chitta. And finally, you realize, they are one and the same. When you follow karma marga, bhakti marga, jnana marga, we are in search of God, bhakti. And you go to the temple after doing all the rituals. वहां पे लिखा है कि तत्वमसि. मान लो तत्वमसि. You are in search of some supreme absolute. वहां पे लिखा है कि यार तत्वमसि. You are that. So it's like you are that thing you have been searching for. Acha, you will feel like, okay, I am that thing I was searching for, Aham Brahmasmi. In a state of purity, right? Liberation. We see in Advaita. Bhakti as a means, finally, jnana, finally through jnana marg, that there is only one reality. We have reached there. Jivan Mukti, Vidya Mukti, you remember? Liberation in this life and liberation only after death. What is Mukti? Liberation from the cycle, karmic cycle. Na? Karmic cycle. Liberation from suffering from karmic cycle. What are the types of karma? Don't need any keyword, but see, action, reaction, outcome. In the past, you would have done something, at the state of ignorance. Fruits are bound to arise. We would have reaped the fruits of our actions in the past, na? Presuming law of karma is true. The presumption chahiye when we study this. In between, in religion and morality, I'll give you scope to counter that as well. Why should I presume? That's open talk. Here means presume. Actions done in the past. C set तो पढ़ रहे होंगे ना? Permutation combination. Actions did in the past, those fruits that you have reaped. Actions done in the past, fruits are yet to be reaped. Actions that you are performing now. Only these possibility, na? So suppose we are getting that realization, right? Any action performed after that higher realization means it's not going to create any kind of fruits. There won't be any samskaras that lead to some other future fruits. Remember that state, that state. That state is understood as Jivan Mukti by the ones who accept it. Let's say Sankhya and Advaita. Liberation in this life. You have reached that state. It won't go back. You once you have realized means it won't go back. But we are yet to be free from some of the fruits of actions in the past. एक कहानी भी बनाया था about Buddha that you will be remember. Buddha's disciple बिना बता के चला गया. Spirituality because of parents' compulsion he went to Buddha. Through compulsion अगर कुछ करें तो वो अच्छा नहीं होगा यार. Yeah, Prarabdha karma. So it's like uh, Buddha. What mistake did Buddha do? Mistake nahi. People ask. It's like without informing, leaving the family chala gaya. If you treat so, no problem with that. Nothing like sin. Even Buddha himself says, na, ki you should ask questions. He could have been philosopher king actually. We will see that idea in Plato. After liberation, राजा बन गया तो अच्छा है for everyone. Rajarshi. So anyhow, that action should reap fruits, no? Should have fruits. Somebody should, leave without informing. Maybe Buddha was a bit attached to that disciple. मतलब very good in explaining Praditya Samutpada. Whatever he was discussing, बहुत अच्छा बता रहे हैं. उसका काम आधा हो गया. Just like Buddha's family was attached to him, Buddha got attached. या रात को वो निकल गया. Just telling like, please wait, मैं खाना लेके आता हूँ. Missing. Buddha will feel, na, karma will return. That is prarabdha karma. Even though he had attained nirvana, that is prarabdha karma, fruits of it. And he will be like, chalo, no problem. It is not going to affect me as it is. Right? Fruits of the actions that we committed in the past. It's not like on a single day you will be free. You will be free from the fruits of the future action, not from the actions of the past. Right? So it's like compared to a potter's wheel. You have seen potter's wheel. Potter's wheel means some wheel. You are starting it. If you are taking the hands, one day or the other, it will stop. It's not going to create further rotation. Phenomena of friction को ऐसे use किया, ठीक है ना? It has to stop. Likewise, you are done. Now waiting. So Jivan Mukti to Videha Mukti means whatever actions you are going to do, it won't create any fruit. So don't treat it that much like action. Even though you are in the body, you are realize everything. So Jivan Mukti, Videha Mukti means after death. Don't think that it will create any further fruit. That's a state. You will be remembering. It's not like Samvara and Nirjara. Samvara means forcefully. You are being free from a bad habit. ठीक है ना? You are being forced. Somebody is stopping alcohol. तो forcefully एक महीना जो है because of exam नहीं पिएगा, some other issue, but soon after that, ठीक है ना, कि अगर कोई अपना स्टडीज का वो कोटा बैकलॉग खत्म करेगा नहीं पता है, बट इसको पीने का आदत है वो तो खत्म करेगा ही. That's Nirjara. Only after Nirjara people will be free from, everything. So don't compare with that. Jivan Mukti means it's somewhat like a stage after Nirjara in Jainism. Even those tendencies are not latent in you, right? That state. Why too? It's like you have to be free from what is known as prarabdha karma, fruits of the prarabdha karma, some actions in the past. You are in the body. After that, Videha Mukti. So the distinction between Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti is there. Advaita, sorry, Ramanujacharya. He accepts only Videha Mukti. Mukti means free from action, free from fruits. You are still in the body, you are performing action. Definitely, it's not going to create any fruits, but he loves to call Mukti only when somebody is free from everything after that. That fruits are yet to be reaped, no? You are not going to get a deeper question on this. If you mention this much, it's fine. You need only that. What is the equivalent of Jivan Mukti will be what Ramanujacharya is saying. What he will be saying is elevation of ordinary bhakti to highest bhakti through self-realization. That is jnana. Through knowledge, you realize your true essence. But that true essence means through the grace of God, your ordinary bhakti has got elevated to highest bhakti through a realization, intuitive knowledge. But still, only after that you will be free. The same state, perhaps, Shankaracharya is not using the grace of God. He'll say like that intuitive knowledge means ho gaya. Bas, this is what you have to know what you are. That's it. Rust means you realized everything is Maya, Jogio, till that. Okay, just think. Yeah, yeah, good counter. Good counter. मतलब है कि the scenario will be like Buddha will never feel कि even if the disciple is going, ठीक है, गया बस. It's not like, oh, iska intezar kar raha hai, is waiting for it. Nothing like that. Had he been the earlier stage before attaining nirvana, he will be expecting. Here means the sense of performance, na jivan mukta, realization. I am doing. Action is going on, bus, right? So we can create based on this route. Either you will be getting direct questions on Jainism, Sankhya, comparison of schools of Vedanta, theory of bondage and liberation in Buddhism. Most likely you will be getting these. Be ready with whatever you are in paper one. This is why I was telling you, when you study paper two, are you feeling it like a reminder of paper one, at least some topics? Yeah. So it will be more clear. So, right, that problem of forgetting certain things, to a large extent, it will be done with this. One topic, philosophy, religious language, the 10th topic, maybe you will feel that it a bit tough. That is also a good topic because linguistic philosophy, मतलब वहां तक नहीं पहुंचा होगा your revision. Not a problem, but other area. This one means I need it, personal versus impersonal God, theory of bondage and liberty. I definitely need it as a kind of revision for your paper one, at least the schools of Vedanta. And open questions will be like, is the idea of liberation positive or negative? Is liberation a state of freedom from suffering or a state of positive bliss? Open question. There we will say our thought will be like, what is liberation? Some people define it negatively, some people define it positively. Who is defining it negatively? What is his justification? Who is defining it positively is justification. Or perhaps you may be एक बार पूछा and I will discuss that definitely. The question is like, you got my plan ना, मतलब कि basics अभी करना है. Some questions in the next month means again a kind of revisit on what we are doing now, Q&A format में. And then last 3 months you intensively focus on police. नहीं तो ये सब हमने जो किया है लिखना है ना. So it's like you have intense focus. So but you वही मतलब अच्छा मेंस रेडी अगर आप हो अभी to some extent, right? You, transcendental to empirical आना है ना when we study something. Right? This is my plan. There was a question like, is the idea of liberation in the theological and the non-theological sense, whether they are same or different? Theological and non-theological. And non-theological क्या है? Simply the one who is not accepting the God of religion. बस ऐसे ही ले लेंगे. Okay, just think about this. One day or the other, I will be discussing that. Okay, clear na? Till now, what we discussed. Yeah, good. See you then. Tomorrow we are having. Saturday we are having. Bye.